It's time to present Scott DuPont to bring you another episode of Finance Your Movie with tips and strategies to help you get your money to tell your story. It's time!
All right, we're back with another episode. I am here today with Cal Barnes, actor, writer, producer, and he directed his first feature, The Astrid Experience. Welcome, Cal.
Hey, Scott, thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
So The Astrid Experience, I guess leading up to that, it looks like a familiar pattern we see a lot with up-and-coming filmmakers. You had done a couple shorts and one or two music videos, correct? And then that led to this feature?
Yeah, I've been acting before I made this film. See, we started in 2019. So I've been acting for about 10 years. And I moved to LA just to be an actor. I acted for a couple years, and I kind of quickly saw that it was a very uphill battle. Talent was obviously required, but everyone had talent. And it was really kind of I sort of luck driven in a sense, kind of who you had connections to. And there was just like a lot of luck involved. And I just didn't really see that as a good business plan early on. And so I started writing a couple years after that. And so I'd written about, as of now, I've written 20 feature screenplays. And I think when we made Astrid, I'd written about 17. And Astrid was my 12th feature script. Yeah.
Where'd you come from before you moved to LA?
So I'm originally from Oregon. I was born in Salem, and I went and studied drama at Portland State University. So I took an acting class there, found what college is all about: exploring, figuring out what you want to do with life. So I found acting, and I was like, this is it. I found something I love to do. And so I packed up my car with a couple $100 and moved to LA.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
you and me both, I figured out probably just a few years into the acting thing. There's a lot of luck, there's a lot of timing, who you know, and even if you have the best audition in the world and you're the best actor,
Yeah.
you might not match up with a cast that already have. There's a zillion reasons why they could say no. So you and I both figured out, hey, why not produce so we could have a little bit of control over our careers?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I can't tell you how many roles I've lost to, like, I've had the best audition, the producers have told me, and then I ended up losing it to a child actor, a child star. And it's just really frustrating, you learn so much that there's so many other factors especially in acting, than just being a good actor. There's so many other factors. And now that I'm a producer, I understand that. So I don't really resent it like I used to, because I get how the business works, but it doesn't make it any less frustrating, for sure.
So let's jump right into the Astrid Experience. Tell us about, I guess in 2018, you mentioned a financing opportunity came around, and then you wrote and adapted it to fit a micro budget.
Yeah, so my friend John That, he's a really talented musician. He's half the band of this band called Academy. They're like a mid-level band. They're doing really well right now. They got a couple songs on NBA 2K 2020 and 2021. And I directed his music video for one of his most popular music videos. I wrote, directed, and produced it, called Hippie Girl by John That. And we did that in, I think, 2014. And we knew we had a good time. It was just a day shoot, really quick, but the music video is really cool. And we knew we wanted to work together again. And he came to me, he's like, hey, you have anything we can produce, like a feature script we could produce on a micro budget, something that we can make ourselves. And so I went through my log of all my scripts, and I had this one script outline I wrote in 2012 about this, based off this experience I had with this actress, where we took this, I think we were working together or dating or something, and we just took this walk through LA, and we had this like really interesting conversation. And I remember during that time I was really inspired by the mumblecore movement of people just going out and shooting films on DSLR cameras. So
The mumblecore movement?
Yeah, you ever heard of mumblecore?
No.
So it's like a lot of the first films, the low budget films made by outside of the studio system, right when DSLR cameras came out. Some films would be like Cold Weather by Aaron Katz. This is when the Duplass brothers came up. They were some of the first pioneers of making these small movies. They're shoestring budget films, like the first shoestring budget films, very slice of life films, very focused on acting and writing. So I was very inspired by that at the time. And so I just started writing scripts like that. And so I had a couple and I never got around to producing them. It was still relatively difficult to produce a feature compared to it is now. But I had them. And so when John came to me and he said, do you have something we could produce? I had this script that we could make already ready to go. And so I took the script, I infused about, another 7 years of life into it, that I'd experienced, and I finished it. And it ended up being, I think the name of the script was called the Overnight Romance Los Angeles Project. And then it ended up becoming the Astrid Experience.
So you self-financed this. What was the total budget that on the production side?
Yeah, so the production budget was $13K cash, I believe, and about 4,000 deferrals. So we call it about 17.
Okay, and that you and John put in that money, no outside investors?
Yeah, John financed about 75-80% of it, and then I financed the other 20%.
Okay.
And that got us from script. So from script phase to in the can in 5 months.
Okay. Awesome. So then one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show, because you then cut a trailer and then you use that to raise a whole bunch more money using WeFunder.
Yeah, so I'd been listening to a lot of podcasts at the time when we were making this film. I was just trying to learn about the micro budget film world, the independent film world, especially as from a producing angle. And I've been keeping up with it for quite a long time. So I knew it was kind of possible. And so I listened to these podcasts and I was trying to figure out how to finance, because, me and John's, all our experience was in, pre-production and production. So all my experience was in pre-production as like a writer and production as an actor. So I had a lot of time on set and a lot of time like working in the pre-production phase. John had a lot of time in production. He worked, he did a lot of PAing jobs on some big shows for like Netflix. So he had a lot of experience in that. Neither of us had any experience in post. So when we got to post-production, we just hit a wall, like a major wall. We didn't have anything lined up. We didn't know anybody. We didn't know how much it was going to cost. We just really was, when we wanted to make the movie, we're like, let's just keep going because we had momentum. I didn't want to like stop and try to figure that out because I knew it would kill us. And I think that was the right decision. It was better to have it actually shot than not have it shot. So anyways, it just became this big learning time where I had to like spend time educating myself. We interviewed a lot of Sundance directors trying to figure out like what the market rates were. Like we were just trying to figure out how we're going to get through this. It was very long and frustrating. And also how to finance it. We realized we were going to need at least as much, if not more money than we had to shoot the movie. Especially because the reason we could shoot it for so low is we used all the resources that I had and he had over the course of like 10 years of being here. And I also wrote a script
to fit that.
Right. I learned how to write for budgets. And so, that's also a developed skill, is like, I made a list of everything we had, our locations, friends, and just that was one reason why we could get it made for that, get it in the can for that low. So
what was the total post-production budget and delivery budget from where you were to where you actually got it delivered so people can actually watch the movie? We'll talk about that in a minute. What was that budget and how did you implement that on WeFunder?
Right. So once we had it in the can and we were in post, we had to raise that money. And so we raised $50,000 on WeFunder. So the total production budget is about we call it 75. And, at the time, so I say, when I was listening to this podcast, I heard about this platform. I think Kickstarter and those other, the donation platforms, it's great if you have like a huge network, or if you come from a wealthy network. If you're someone that doesn't come from that, like such as myself, you come from the outside of LA, you maybe don't come from, extremely wealthy family. I found it problematic, especially if you're trying to raise like even $50,000. I mean, if you want to raise, I think I've raised the most I've raised is like 2 before to make a short film.
On crowdfunding versus crowd investing.
Donation crowdfunding.
Okay.
Yes, donations. So like that'd be Kickstarter, Indiegogo.
Yeah.
So when I heard of WeFunder on a podcast, I heard of there's this filmmaker, Jim Cummings, pretty successful indie filmmaker.
Yes.
He'd used it. I heard people were starting to use it. And I'd say that we were about the second wave, not the first wave, but the second wave. So we were still kind of early adopters. And as soon as I heard of this investment crowdfunding, I saw it as a solution to the problem I saw with donation crowdfunding, because investors could actually get a piece of the project. And, you know, and I think that's only fair anyways. So when we saw that, you know, I really jumped on it. And, you know, it took me like 3 months. We started working with the company, and it took me like 3 months to build out the project. And yeah, the bar for entry on WeFunder is much higher as well. So they're much more selective with the projects they take.
So,
And
what I was curious about, because
yeah,
I've had some friends that have raised 250, 300,000, $1 million at
wow.
this low budget, 50K.
Yeah.
What were your upfront costs on WeFunder? And then what was the process of reaching out to people?
See,
Like, are there legal fees or setup fees?
yeah. So when you approach them, I'm trying to think. I don't think there's any upfront fees. You just have to have your legal really pat. So luckily we built our project correctly. You know, we had an LLC. We were very very smart with contracts. We did a really good job of building a solid, viable business. And WeFunder checks all of that, because when you get when they clear you to launch, you know, they're sending their vine for your project, and they're sending it out to a group of what's the name of, they're called
Their platform, right?
yeah, they're called Verified United States, and it's something like, I think I'm getting the terminology wrong, but they're verified US investors.
Accredited.
Yes,
accredited investors.
Correct. And it means that they have a net worth of at least $1 million or more.
Or an income, I believe, of 200,000 a year. They're
Yeah,
serious players that can afford to gamble a little bit of film investing.
correct. Yeah, that's absolutely it. So they want to really make sure, obviously, that they're sending out projects that are good investments, right? So yeah, they checked all of that, and it took a long time. I mean, we had to go through the SEC, we had to get cleared with them. It definitely wasn't a very easy or like quick process. It's definitely an undertaking, but we saw, you know, it was really a solution. You know, we had a problem. It's like, how are we going to get through post? How are we going to raise the financing? And WeFunder became that solution.
So 3 months in, you get all the paperwork done. You're open for business. Did you and John reach out to friends, family, people you know? Were you pushing people to a link, or was this like just random people on the platform that said, hey, this looks like a cool project? Like, where did the actual investors come from?
Yeah, so this is kind of where it gets crazy. Is we built the page, and then we literally were ready to launch, I think, the week of COVID. So we were talking to the platform, and they were like, you know, you might want to hold off. And I was like, no, we got to just do it now, because if we're going to lose momentum if we don't. So we were actually initially trying to raise 100,000. And I honestly think if it wasn't for COVID, I think we would have, because there was a lot of scared money at the time, and film became
people losing their jobs, laid off.
Yeah. It was more of a film, kind of became more of a luxury investment, not so much of a necessity at the time. And it was such a crazy time in terms of no one knew it was going to happen. So yeah, when we did launch, obviously we sent it to some friends and family, but really, if we could just go to friends and family, we would have done that. We wouldn't have needed a WeFunder. So really, we were counting on WeFunder to meet some people with wealth. And, you know, gratefully we did that. We basically, as soon as we launched, questions started coming in. So these investors really do their diligence. They ask you questions. And I think in our credit, I kind of saw I set up a page. I think that was really important, is we had a smaller movie. We were competing with films that had much bigger budgets. There were, you know, tier 1 with Sundance and South by Southwest winning filmmakers. Some with much larger, you know, A-list talent in the film, or B-list talent. So I think what we did, and I think how we had success, is I knew that they were all starting from scratch, but we had a film in the can, and we made a cool trailer. So we were kind of nullifying a lot of the risk that was going to happen with shooting a movie. So we really kind of led with we're like, yo, you can invest in these films, but we have a
film in the can.
Yeah. And here's the trailer. So we made sure the trailer was really good. You know, we were marketing it, advertising that trailer to rack up views, you know, making sure that people saw it, that there was some buzz about it. And, you know, that's kind of how we competed with those bigger movies. Cause there were you know, it was my first film. there were a lot more accomplished filmmakers we were competing with. And, you know, we were asking for a lot less money, but, you know, I think it was just important to, you know, lean into our strengths, you know, and we had a completed film, we had a shot film. And so that's how we did it. And that's how we got the attention of those investors. And I think, you know, really it came down to us, you know, they're investing, you know, I'm still friends with our two, you know, we had two really large investors for that financed about 80% of that 50
Oh,
grand.
wow. Wow.
Yeah. So
So they got some sort of exec producer credit.
yeah, they got a share of the profits. They have executive producer credit. And, you know, we're still friends with them. I still talk to them. We keep them updated. We're about to send out our first round of return here in January 2024.
Oh, nice.
So,
Was that from
yeah.
Tubi revenues?
Yeah, it's going to be from Tubi revenues, mainly. That's our main source, and then also from physical media. Actually, is actually
DVDs.
doing quite. In fact, yeah. To be honest, like we're actually, that's really because the sale is so much higher. So for physical media, we're getting about $5 a sale, and you know, on the other.
Nice.
TVOD's really not a thing. We've had some TVOD sales, but it's not really competitive. And Tubi, I mean, you know, it's great because, you know,
so many more people are watching Tubi.
So many people are seeing it, but you're getting, you know, you're getting
the ad revenue
here, right? So I mean, it takes I don't know how many Tubi watches to compete with one Blu-ray sale. So actually, right now, we're making more money in physical media than anything else. Yeah,
so
but
I want to back up to the
two
big executive producers who came in
Yeah.
for 80 or 90% of this $50,000.
Yeah.
You said they started reaching out. Was this kind of like a chat box where they're emailing back and forth, or did they want to set up a Zoom call with you guys? Did they get on the phone so you could answer questions?
Yeah. So once we launched again, they started asking questions. It's kind of like a forum, like a Q&A forum where they can just ask questions. It's right on the WeFunder, like built into the platform. And yeah, you just answer. And I would just spend days and days answering detailed questions, and they'd ask pretty good questions an investor should invest. And then the cool thing is the questions, when you write them, they're there for everyone else to see. So not everyone has to ask the same question privately. Like they ask them publicly, then you answer the question, and then everyone that's interested can see that. So you're just building out this long line. And I think, you know, diligence, knowing what you're talking about, these things really serve you as a filmmaker. Knowing the market, it builds investor confidence, because oftentimes they're testing you. You know, they already know. They're just kind of seeing if you do stuff like that. So yeah, it was all on there. And then, you know, you eventually, I think we did have some asks. One investor wanted to hear from, so our lead actress, she lives in South Africa. She was, you know, especially during after post-production, especially when COVID hit, she went back to South Africa. So one investor wanted to hear from her. So, you know, we hired her to do a shoot over there, to shoot a video. And then she sent that in, and then we sent that to the investor, and then he was happy with that. So he invested. Another investor wanted to hear from John, because he's one of our producers. So because I was mainly me doing almost all of it, the public facing stuff. So they just wanted to hear from some of the talent. John's also a musician. He performs in the movie, so they wanted to hear from him. And yeah, so I mean, it's just a combination of just fulfilling, you know, asks, and you know, you kind of just, you never know who's going to come through. You know, we also have the opposite end. I mean, we had one guy, I won't ever forget it. He just grilled us and grilled us and grilled us. And I won't name any names, but he really built up himself as being a pretty big investor. And, you know, it made himself look like, you know, he had a lot of money, he was going to invest a lot, and he really grilled us more than anyone, more than the other people. And then he ended up investing like $100. So like, which for an investment platform really is the bare, it's actually the minimum entry level spend.
You set that, right? You can set your minimum on WeFunder.
You can set your minimum, but it's you know, we were getting, most people that came through with at least 500. That was about the minimum people would even bother. So it's funny because the guy who grilled us the most and gave us the most kind of showboating ended up investing the least. I spent a lot of time on that guy. So it was kind of funny how that works. And then, you know, some people were just like, I love it. I think one of our guys, one of our other guys wanted to have he really wanted to have a more phone conversation. So one of our investors wanted to see videos from the talent. Another investor wanted a lot of phone conversations. He was more new to the film investment world. One of them was more savvy. So a lot of educating too, a lot of, here's what we're doing. Here's what's possible. And so, yeah, you just meet everyone where they're at, and, just try to treat everyone well. And then someone always comes through. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yep. So speaking of educating your potential investors, I'd love you to educate our audience. What were some of the questions that these guys were asking you?
That's a good question.
Do you remember some of them?
Let
Like,
me think.
how am I going to get my money back? How quickly? Did any of that come up?
Yeah.
What's your marketing strategy?
Yeah, marketing strategy. We also had a complete business plan that that was available on the page. Most of the questions were, they're about the market, about where the market's going. They were, about the genre, or like about, their opinions on where, the market's going, which some of them were right. It's been getting more difficult, kind of every year in terms of returning films. I hope that changes with the strikes, but so like a lot of it was that, and I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, a lot of it was about like how the waterfall works. So like how the return on investment works. Again, most of that was already in the business plan, which was great. But pretty much.
And you guys, I'm just guessing, I haven't seen your business plan, but I'm just guessing you were pretty realistic with all your potential investors, saying, hey, it's probably not going to go to theaters. It's probably going to go to TVOD and then AVOD, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We were really, film festivals was a big part of it. The film, we wanted to do that. And then in the business plan, risk. So the cool thing about WeFunder is basically, the cool thing is so when you're building the page, you're basically building a business plan, because you're basically, the whole page is a business plan. And so you're basically building one. So if you actually go through the whole process of going through all this clearance, you can kind of build your business plan at the same time, because lots of it, like the questions, what you have to explain, is basically just an online curated business plan for investors. And then of course you have your official one that's in a document, but it's basically a business plan. So they kind of have all the information right there. So most of it's them just like riffing off of the plan and all the information available. And it's basically just questions you'd have in any business plan.
And congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. That was
getting
like
this
2020,
raised.
so it has been a while. It's been like 3 years since I was doing that. Yeah.
So then I want to hear about the first time you showed it publicly. I don't know if it was a cast and crew screening or a festival. You revealed at the end that the whole movie was shot on an iPhone.
Yeah, so we ended up we wanted to throw an awesome premiere. I just think that's really important for small films, because I truly mean this. Money's always important, but I do think for these smaller movies, independent film, a lot of investors get into it for the experience. Like they usually are making their money. I know one of ours is in big tech. A lot of it is, if they're looking to just make money, I mean, they have tech, there's other industries. I mean, it's pretty common knowledge independent film isn't the most lucrative place. There are outliers, but for the most part, they get into it to be close to Hollywood, to have an experience. And so I really wanted to give them that. I thought it was important. So we really threw an awesome premiere. We rented the Langley Royal in Santa Monica.
Oh, wow.
We had, Getty Images there. We had a huge red carpet. We had like 6 photographers, multiple videographers. We pretty much packed the house. And it was a really, really amazing night. And our investors flew in, they loved it. They absolutely loved it. And I think this movie will break even over time. I have no doubt about that. But usually takes a while, with the
how many quarters have you had on Tubi yet? Like 1 or 2 quarters?
We just released, it's only been a quarter right now.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay. So you're in the right track if you've gotten a little bit of money already.
Yeah, money's coming in, and I think over time it will break even. But you're asking for their patience usually, and I think that when there's other perks, and I really think this is important for filmmakers to learn, is that if you come through, come through on the experience for people. If you throw an amazing premiere, one that really feels big, one that feels exciting, you kind of hit all the right beats. We had a great step and repeat, amazing lighting. Getty, the whole premieres on Getty Images forever, where people can go back on that. I had a publicist for it. We had media coverage. I mean, it was awesome. And so, if you could hit all this stuff and give them a good time, it's every investor's different, but I think I think a lot of them do it for that reason. That's just the feeling I get. And so, if you can come through on that, it's a real good way to keep a good relationship, as well as obviously making a profitable film.
So I always ask filmmakers at the end of a session here for advice. If you could give one or two bits of advice to people raising money for independent films, either WeFunder or just going out and getting equity investors, after this whole process, what have you learned? What are one or two pieces of advice you like to share?
Advice I'd have is just if you want to go through this process, making a micro budget film, see it as it's really a learning experience. If anything, I'll be honest, I don't think it's sustainable making these films. It's not something I'm looking to do again. I'm looking to make a much bigger film with my company now, which we're doing, but it's a great place to start. And oftentimes you got to make one to get one, you just have to have it's almost like the calling card now, like to be taken seriously for a big job, you almost have to have a feature film. Even if you made it yourself. So my advice would be, just go into it with a learning hat on, be prepared to learn. And when you reach out to investors, or, during your time of leading up, so your development time, I'd say educate yourself because it's changing so much. The market is changing so fast with technology. I mean, if I was going to make another one, I'd have to go back into the same education process I was in at the time. And because there's so many companies coming up and ways to finance your film that, I'm not even really keeping track of anymore because I'm moving, this film has kind of helped me get more into more of a traditional model, which is awesome. But if I was going to start from scratch and make a micro budget film now, I mean, I would be listening to every filmmaking podcast. I would be, seeing what the newest books are for 2023. Don't read the ones for 2021. They're not really relevant.
Yeah,
anymore.
so true.
It's true. Like it's changing so much that, I would just try to get ahead. I mean, it's really difficult to be there first, but if you can, because that information is usually saved for very privileged people, like people that learn about things first or people that are already there. But if you can get there second, like if you can be listening. And so like for us, I think we were the second wave to WeFunder. I mean, I can't even tell you if WeFunder, and I'm just being honest, I don't even know if WeFunder is a viable financing platform for independent filmmakers now because it's 3 years later and I have been doing other things. I haven't been keeping up with them as much. You can always look into it, but I don't even know if it's as,
but it worked for you. It worked for you.
It worked for me. So, I mean, I would say check it out.
I'm sure a lot of hard work and perseverance.
Absolutely. So like, that's my advice is just educate yourself, try to just learn what's new, what's like the newest thing and what hasn't been done before, because that's really where the gold is.
Awesome.
Honestly.
Well, check out the Astrid Experience now. I believe it's on Tubi, Apple, and Amazon, correct?
Yep, it's on Tubi, Apple, and Amazon.
Cal Barnes, thank you so much for being on the show. Are there any social media coordinates people can follow you or learn more about your production company?
Yeah, I mainly just do Instagram. It's just at my name, at Cal Barnes. And there, I'm pretty accessible. I just kind of keep all my stuff there if you want to keep up with me. And yeah, I got some cool stuff coming up and excited to share with everybody.
Awesome, Cal. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you sharing all this today.
Yeah, Scott, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening. And remember, it's time!
There's never been a better time to make your own indie film. And if you have a dream project you're excited about and 100% committed to getting it funded, go to financeyourmovie.com and click on the green telephone button. You'll see our calendar, and if you find an open spot, grab it. You'll get a one-on-one call with me or one of my partners. It will be the best hour you've ever spent getting clarity and strategy towards financing your movie. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week.